It saved some from the edge, but pushed others over it. This is Zoloft, the pill that can redefine normal. I'm Ray. I'm 27, and I live about 30 minutes outside of Boston in this small, quiet town that always smells a little like pine and old pavement after it rains. Most days I work remotely doing back end IT stuff, coding, troubleshooting. It's nothing crazy, but it pays a decent wage. I've always been a little on the anxious side, the kind of kid who worried if the teacher frowned or if someone didn't text back fast enough. But over the years, the anxiety turned inward. Somewhere along the line, it stopped being a background hum and became something else entirely. This expanding fear unfortunately caused other negative emotions to surface. This is when the depression crept in slowly, like moss growing under the fridge. It's not until you move something that you realize how bad it's gotten. For me, the breaking point wasn't dramatic. There wasn't some huge meltdown or public moment. It was one quiet Tuesday. I woke up, stared at the ceiling fan, and realized I hadn't felt anything in weeks. I had a realization that all the stress that I went through with my anxiety had sanded off my emotions. I felt no joy, not sadness, just static. I hadn't laughed in probably a month. I couldn't finish meals. Everything was either too loud or too quiet, and when my mom called, I felt nothing. Not irritation, not love, just numb. That's when things began to scare me. So after building up the courage, I finally went to a doctor. She recommended therapy and started me on Zoloft. I wasn't expecting a miracle, or to even be happy. I just wanted to feel like a human again. The first couple of weeks were weird. A little nausea, jittery mornings, some trouble sleeping. I actually thought about quitting, but I kept taking it, half out of hope, half out of desperation. Then it happened. I was in the grocery store, market basket on a Thursday, around 2 p.m. Not crowded, just the usual hum of carts and kids begging for snacks. I remember standing in the produce aisle, holding a bag of spinach. I began to think about the rotting spinach in my fridge I had seen before leaving for work. I got this feeling of disgust and felt the urge to go home and just throw it out. And that's when I noticed it. The noise wasn't pressing on me anymore. The fluorescent lights weren't drilling into my skull. I looked up from the spinach and realized I didn't feel like I was drowning. It was subtle, like when your ears pop after a flight and you hadn't realized how muffled the world had been. I looked around. A kid was laughing near the apples. An old man bumped into me and smiled. And I actually smiled back. Not forced, not faked, just reflexively. I wandered into the cereal aisle, and I started thinking about what I wanted, not just grabbing whatever was easiest. I picked out this granola I used to like in college. That felt important for some reason. I wasn't high, nor euphoric, but the world had color again, not brighter, just there, like someone had turned the saturation back on. Over the next few weeks, it kept getting better. Not every day was perfect, but I started cleaning my place again. I called my sister and actually wanted to talk. I started cooking, not just microwave meals, but real food. Music started sounding good again. And the weirdest part? I laughed at a really dumb meme, like really laughed, alone in my apartment. The kind of laugh that sticks in your throat a little because you forgot what it feels like. Zoloft didn't make me someone new. It just gave an important part back to myself. It gave me enough breathing room to go to therapy and start sorting through the mess I've gathered. I still have bad days. I still overthink. But it feels like my head is finally above water for the first time in a while. My name's Marissa. I'm 31 now, living in a small apartment in Eugene, Oregon, but I was born and raised in a little town outside Houston, Texas. Growing up wasn't easy, not in the way where physical scars sear a memory. but in the quiet, slow way that anxiety creeps in without anyone noticing, not even you. My parents were the only anchors I had. We didn't have a lot, but they were steady. That all changed when I was 17. They died in a car accident on the way back from my cousin's wedding. One second I was texting my mom to bring me leftover cake. The next I was being told by a state trooper that they never made it home. It shattered something in me. I remember just lying on my bed that night, watching all of the cars drive by outside my window, and feeling like the whole world had shifted, like I'd been pushed outside of it. The grief never truly settled. It calcified into this constant low-level dread that followed me into adulthood. Relationships were hard. I didn't trust people. I'd date for a few months, then sabotage it, pick fights over nothing, withdraw, ghost them before they could ghost me. Deep down, I think I believed I wasn't worth loving. The loneliness became a background hum. I got used to eating dinner alone, watching other people laugh on TV, and wondering if it ever felt that effortless in real life. I ended up working in tech support. I don't really like it, but it's all I know. I'd take calls all day, listening to strangers complain about things that weren't really my fault. Most days I could handle it, but one day, this guy just kept yelling at me because his router wouldn't reset. I tried to explain. He wouldn't let me finish a sentence, and after 5 bad calls in a row, something just snapped. I yelled, like really yelled, loud enough that my coworker in the next cubicle stood up to look over. I got written up, of course. That night, I sat on the edge of my bathtub for maybe an hour, just staring at the drain. I didn't want to die, but I had this feeling that I would want to soon if something didn't change. I made an appointment the next day. That's when Zoloft came into the picture. At first, I felt a little pride knowing that I'd finally taken control of something. The anxiety started to lift a little. I'm not sure if it was the motivation or the hope that things would change. I wasn't crying in the shower every morning. I could get through a workday without my chest pains. It wasn't dramatic, just a little easier. But after a few weeks, my psychiatrist bumped up the dosage to see if there would be more improvement. And that's when things started to change. I didn't feel anxious anymore. But I didn't feel much at all. I'd sit through a movie and not laugh, not cry, just sort of observe. I'd walk through the park and not notice the trees or the smell of the rain. Normally, the sensations of nature would bring me back to the present and provide a little peace. But it seemed like I would have to put conscious effort into using my senses. I hope this doesn't make me sound dramatic. Also, I'd talk to a friend and feel like I was just reciting a script. I would have to remind myself, what would Marisa say? At first it was just weird, but soon became uncomfortable. It got to a point to where I almost wished my anxiety and depression back, because at least I wouldn't be some robot. It's hard to explain what emotional numbness feels like to someone who hasn't lived in it. It's not peace. It's not relief. It's like being outside of your house on a cold day and seeing all of the laughter, joy, sadness happening on the inside, but never being able to let yourself in. Things happened to me, but never with me. I started avoiding people more, not because I was anxious, but because I was so tired of pretending to care. I'd stare at myself in the mirror and think, is this better? Is this what getting better is supposed to feel like? I almost started to blame myself for feeling right. Eventually, I talked to my doctor. We lowered the dose. I weaned off. Slowly, some color started to return to things, the good and the bad. I cried watching a video of a dog rescue, and I remember smiling through the tears because I felt something again. I hate to sound cliche, but you don't know what you got until it's gone. Yes, even the negative emotions. I'm not against medication. For some people, it's life-changing. But for me, Zoloft numbed the very things I was trying to protect. I wanted to heal, not disappear. Now I still deal with anxiety. It hasn't magically vanished, and I don't think it ever will. But I'm learning to sit with it. Therapy's helped a little. I'm learning how to sit with my anxiety rather than fight it or dull it out with substances. Between journaling, therapy, and bird watching, I'm not in the super dark place I once was. Some days I still scream and shout, but at least they feel real. And after everything, all I wanted are emotions.
The content on this channel is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not intended to promote, encourage, or condone the use or misuse of any drugs or substances. We do not provide medical advice. Always consult a licensed medical professional before making any health-related decisions.